to account similarly. I want to talk quickly to the Minister before we go to a break about small businesses. Minister, good evening and thank you very much for joining us tonight. I'm going to introduce our panel a little later after the break, but I just want to talk to you, Minister, about how things are going. You've been in that job for, I think, 2.5 years now, and I'm sure you've warmed the seat nicely, and you are able to tell me today what are the 2 big or 3 big ideas that you think you have achieved in this time. Small businesses, suffering still because of the economic meltdown that we are facing, but I'm sure you've got some plans or some good news that you can tell us tonight about how your department is doing and supporting small business. Good evening to you, Minister.
Good evening, JJ, and to your panel, my fellow panelists that are with you in the studio, and of course the entire South Africans in their respective areas.
Thank you, Minister. Give me two or three big things before we go to a break that you can say, I think this is where we made the mark as this Department of Small Business.
Well, JJ, I'll have to give you more than that. As this administration, in the period that we've spoken about, we've managed to set the ground for the new administration. You will recall that we gazetted the funding policy for small and medium enterprises and cooperatives, which is about to be finalized. Of course, when we come back, I'll get into detail in terms of what is it that the policy seeks to achieve. Secondly, coming to a space that was not coordinated, the first thing that we agreed on is that there's a need for a coordinated strategy, which is why we came with a NISET plan, the National Integrated Small Enterprise Development Framework, which brings together not only government, but the entire ecosystem that is responsible for SMMEs. At the center of this is ensuring that we make people work. We give South Africans an opportunity to produce things, which is why, again, we came up with a policy, localization policy that was also adopted. And there we're looking at accessing the value chains that are with the private sector whilst we're not leaving government behind. We are in a process of finalizing the township economy revitalization policy, which is something that looks at ensuring that we bring back or we reclaim the township and rural economy back to its rightful owners. And again, we'll unpack in detail when we come back. We've gazetted also the business licensing policy, which looks at which sectors should be licensed and which areas should be reserved for South Africans and other legally trading businesses in our country, and therefore creating a niche for our SMMEs in the economy that we're talking about. Of course, we're also responsible for cooperatives. And the first thing is to ensure that we review the cooperative strategy in order to make sure that we build not only resilient, but responsive cooperatives that can be able to trade. You've mentioned when we started, we were talking about Old Mutual. Many companies were set as cooperatives, and now we are trying to revive that, but in a better working and effective model. And as I said, when we come back, we are prepared to talk about those.
All right.
So I did tell you.
Interesting, Minister. I'm going to zone into particularly the issue of regulation. A lot of people believing that small businesses are suffering over regulation, but maybe you will clarify. I'm going to be joined as we come back by Bongo Mahlangu, who is the South African Youth Economic Council member and executive member. Then Mike Moloi, who is the Kasi Economic Warrior in Investments member, who will also weigh into this conversation after the break. Small businesses